Welcome to Life in Calgary, Alberta. I'm your host, Patrick Murray. And if you're new to this channel and you want to know everything there is about what it's like to live, eat, sleep, play in Calgary, Alberta, and want to know the top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary, Alberta, then you are in the right place. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that little bell in the corner so you get notified every time I release a new video. I drop a new video every week about all things Calgary. Now, I got to tell you, I absolutely love helping people. I get emails, text, phone calls all the time from people moving here. So if that's you and you want some assistance, reach out to me. I've lived in the city a long time and I know it like the back of my hand. And now let's get into 7 reasons not to move to Calgary, Alberta. All right, guys, here we go. The top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary, Alberta. Now, this is my personal list, some of my personal pet peeves, and I put this together on my own. These are in no particular order. Here we go. All right, number 1 is high rental rates. Okay, rates are going up, rental rates are going up across Canada, and I don't think that's any secret, but nowhere has it gone up higher than in Calgary, Alberta. And I'll give you a little story here. So I have some family members, they're younger, and they've been renting a place for themselves, and their rent just went up the other day, $500 a month. $500 a month. That's a huge increase in the amount they have to pay in rent each month. Now, I should tell you that that's a lot of money for anybody. Oh, I don't need to tell you. That's a lot of money for anybody, let alone a young couple starting out on their own. So high rental rates, that's something to be aware of. In fact, it's almost worthwhile just to buy into the market, get into a place because you're paying just as much. So if you can, that's an option you might want to consider. Number 2 on my top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary is large class sizes in school. Okay, so I know a lot of parents in Calgary are concerned about this. And of course, I know a lot of educators are also concerned. And I have nothing but respect for teachers. I know it's not an easy job. I certainly couldn't do it. So I appreciate what teachers do and educators do. Now, there's a few reasons why we have large class sizes. Number 1 is that we have a lot of people migrating here to our province. So that comes with a lot of pros, but it comes with some cons as well. And that means we've got a lot of influx of people coming here and a lot of kids that need to get into school and need to be schooled. The other challenge is, of course, the government of the day, where they're allocating funds as a government. So, and again, that's not an easy job, and I recognize that too. But the government, they have to allocate money to healthcare, policing, education, etc. So it just depends where they're putting their money and are we able to hire the teachers and that sort of thing. So that's number 2 on my top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary is the large class sizes. Number 3 on my list today is traffic. Now, I'll tell you a few things about traffic, and I'm going to use a map here so you can kind of see. All right, so this is a map of the city of Calgary, and we've got some major thoroughfares, and I've spoken in previous videos about how it's great that we have this great road system with good north-south thoroughfares, east-west, that sort of thing to get you to where you need to go. However, there are some times when traffic is a challenge, and again, one is due to the amount of people we have moving here. So we've got a lot of people commuting from the north or from the south. Moving into the city core, to the business district to go to work and that sort of thing. So I'm going to show you on the map here. If you look here, this is Deerfoot Trail. Now, Deerfoot Trail is actually the Queen Elizabeth II Highway. And when it enters the city of Calgary, it becomes Deerfoot Trail, which is the busiest freeway in all of Alberta. Now, if there is an accident on this roadway, it gets really boggy. So you can imagine, 3, 4 lanes being shut down into one, and all of that morning commuting volume being funneled into one lane is absolutely insane. So it's not unusual if you're in such a situation that you could be sitting there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, or what if somebody does something stupid in the night, for example, has a huge, drunk driving in the night, crashes their car, and it's a fatality situation, the police have actually closed down portions of Deerfoot Trail, so they can't even get through at all. And then that means people need to find other ways. Maybe they go around the ring road from the south or the north, and they take 16th Avenue, which is Highway 1, and then down, say, through Edmonton Trail or Center Street, which are major thoroughfares within the inner city. However, they're not made to handle the type of volume that we see on Deerfoot Trail. So that gets quite boggy, and that can take some time. And of course, just normal volume. And again, normal volume is due to our population influx. We have more people moving here all the time. And if you live in the suburbs in Calgary, I mean, yes, you might be able to get to a C train station to park your car to park and ride. You still need your car in a lot of cases. And a lot of people just don't have that luxury. They're not able to, so they do need to drive their car. So traffic is number 3 on my list of the top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary, Alberta. Number 4 on my list is the crime in the downtown core and the crime on the C train, which is our light rail transit system. So, again, there are a few reasons why we have crime. Of course, influx of people, the more people you have, the more issues you have, social problems, that sort of thing. Yes, I mean, we're like any other large city. We do have a little bit of gang violence that goes on here too. And I can understand, and it's unfortunate, but gang violence when, somebody is off somebody and then there's retaliation, off somebody else. And nobody likes that. Bullets flying around is never good. But that's kind of targeted attacks, if you will. But what's really disturbing is, some people are walking in downtown core and they just get mugged or attacked for no reason whatsoever. It's random, and that's scary. So, we know the police are trying to work on ways to stop that from happening. Of course, that means hiring more police officers. Of course, they can only hire so many. And of course, that comes down to budgets from the city and the province as well. But something they're doing right now is a pilot project coming up for into February and March here, the end of February and into March, is bringing in some sheriffs to help patrol the downtown core alongside police officers as well. So there's more visibility in the downtown core. And of course, these sheriffs have all the same rights to arrest people as the city police do. So hopefully that's really going to help out, and hopefully we can crack this problem and get some more policing in our city. Now, I also mentioned violence on the C train. That's been a challenge for a little while as well. Part of that comes down to sometimes a little bit of homelessness, that sort of thing, or people with psychological issues, that sort of thing, mental illness, which is very unfortunate. Of course, we always talk about programs and things like that. And I know there are some out there, but of course, it's one thing to have a program, it's another to get people help. So that's an issue as well. We have some issues on the C train, some violence and that sort of thing. And I know, again, the city has transit officers. They're trying to hire more. Wouldn't it be great if there was a transit officer on every single train that patrolled the train? And I know they try to do that. They go to the stations and they do patrol some of the trains. Of course, they can't be on every train, but wouldn't it be great if we had the budget to do so? So anyways, this is something the city knows about. It's something the city's working on, again, policing in the downtown core, and also looking after policing on our light rail transit system, the C train. Oh my goodness. Number 5 on my list. Number 5 on my top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary, Alberta is the parking. Okay. First off, our parking rates, and I don't know if it's still true, but at one time, our parking rates were only, the only place higher in fees was Manhattan, New York City. Isn't that insane? I mean, I understand there why it's so high, but here, I mean, come on. So we had the highest, some of the second highest parking fees in North America at one time, and I don't know if that's still true. So yeah, you can go out, you might be able to find some free parking in some of the communities. I know down in Bridgeland, I'll go down, I'll park my car in the street, and sometimes you can input and get 30 minutes free or an hour and a half free. If you park your car down there, and that's because those business communities down there have lobbied the city and they've come to an agreement at certain times of day where there can be free parking. But that's not always the case, and that's not always the case in all the neighborhoods either. Sometimes you can find parking that's inexpensive, but other times you can pay $10 an hour to park your car. And of course, that adds up quite quickly. So that's another one of my peeves. The other peeve I have has to do with parking in the inner city in general. So I live in the inner city. Behind me is my street. I moved into my house a few years after I moved here back in 2004, and we had free street parking, which was great. So, we had guests coming, stay a week or two, or dinner guests coming for supper, no problem. They could park their cars. I have a double detached garage in my house, so my wife and I can each park our car back there if needed to. And then because business started to happen close by on Edmonton Trail, more businesses, restaurants, that sort of thing, there started to be a parking issue. So the city came up with this plan to have permit parking in our neighborhood, which I understand and I get. And everybody got, depending on the type of household you had, the type of place you lived in. My house is a single detached home. We had 2 passes for each of our cars to park in the street, and then we received 2 visitor passes, which is great. So if we had a visitor come and stay, we could put them in the system and they could be in the system and not get a ticket, because parking enforcement is always driving by. Well, now there's a new plan with the city of Calgary that they're coming out and saying, no, now we're going to charge homeowners to park their cars in their neighborhood on the street. And we're going to charge homeowners in the inner city, in certain neighborhoods, to have visitor passes to park their car. Oh, it's okay. These passes are going to be good for 2 years at a time. 15 bucks at a crack or something like that is pretty expensive. So that's frustrating to me, because I moved into this neighborhood. It was free. Now parking rates are going up. I know some people say, oh, wow, you live in the inner city, suck it up. Well, I'd suck it up, but like I'm saying, at one time it was free. And so I don't know that it's really fair that all these restrictions are always coming. I'm fine with parking permits. I don't know that we should have to pay for it because we live here. And the city is trying to densify the inner city, help with the help minimize urban sprawl and have more people living here. So let's make it easier. Okay, that was a really good rant. All right, let's move on. My next pet peeve has to do with construction in our city. So, I always joke there's 2 seasons in Calgary. We have winter and we have construction season. Well, that construction season has now moved into winter. So, for example, driving downtown, of course, it's great to see our city ever developing, old buildings being torn down, new buildings coming up that can better house people, that sort of thing, and have businesses, etc. However, sometimes that closes down the street. So you might have be driving along and there's a flag guy that comes out, stops you because they're moving goods from one side of the street to the other, or a couple lanes of the street is closed down because they need to kind of spill out onto the street because they're doing this construction of a high-rise building. So that's a little bit frustrating to me. What really frustrates me is on a weekend, I'll be driving downtown, and I understand why they do it on weekends, and sometimes not just on weekends, but they'll be doing something like, say, water main work on a major thoroughfare one way in the downtown core. And there'll be, 4 lanes, that sort of thing. And then they funnel everything in the 1 lane. Because they're doing this work. And to me, that's very frustrating, or 2 lanes, very frustrating, because there's a lot of volume down there. It needs to move. Now, I understand infrastructure work. It's just like owning a house. When you own a house, you need to upkeep your home. It's the same thing when you run a city. Certain things need to be replaced over time. But that's a pet peeve for me. I can't help it. It bugs me. So that's my number 6 pet peeve. My number 6 reason of my top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary, Alberta. Number 7. Oh boy. Number 7 is the weather. Oh boy, where do I start? All right. We can experience all 4 seasons in Calgary in one single day. So, it could be winter, spring, fall. Oh, guys, who am I kidding? It could be summertime. It has actually snowed in Calgary in July. So not very often, don't worry, but it's happened. So, we always have a bit of a saying here. If you don't like the weather in Calgary, wait 5 minutes. And it's so true, because our weather is always changing. But we can experience all 4 seasons. So if you don't like that, that's something to be aware of. We get these Chinooks in Calgary, and Chinooks are great. So we could have a really cold day in the wintertime, and then all of a sudden it could jump. It could be minus 21 day, and then all of a sudden it could be plus 10 the next day because of a Chinook. So a Chinook are warm winds that blow off the mountains and the foothills into the city here, and it forms this large band of cloud over the city, which helps insulate that warm air in the city, and it warms things up greatly. For example, last Sunday, it was plus 10 degrees. Okay. Now, I know this sounds great. It's fantastic. It was beautiful. My kid, he didn't like it so much because my son, he likes to go out to the outdoor rink and play hockey. And let me tell you, he would have been swimming instead of playing hockey that day. So he didn't go. So he was disappointed, but we still got out, walked around. Beautiful day, loved it. The challenge has to do with people that suffer with headaches, with an influx in the temperature all the time. And I sometimes get that. My son sometimes gets that. But I know other people that get it way worse. And they say it's a pressure system, but it's not. Apparently, it has to do with ions in the air. Now, I don't understand all that, and I'm not going to tackle that right now. And I'm certainly not qualified to do that. So I won't get into that. But that's just something to be aware of. If you suffer from headaches with extreme temperature changes, that might be a reason why you might not want to move to our city. The other thing is, we could have a really nice day, but it's windy. And that drives me crazy a little bit. And I always say, oh, you can't have a nice day in Calgary without some wind. Now, some people may say, well, that's wind's good. So if it's really hot, you get some wind to move the air. Well, sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't. You could have a nice day, for example, like that, a day that's plus 10. But it's breezy. Again, that's that Chinook wind moving in. So it can be good, but it can also be bothersome too. And, just kind of got to try my best here, right? So it blows it all over the place. But that's pretty minor, but the wind. And finally, with the weather, hot and cold. So, we can get some really hot days in Calgary in the summertime. And it's been more so the last few years. And of course, we talk about global warming and that sort of thing. So maybe that's it. But I know, when I moved here, it used to be summers are quite temperate, 22, 23, 24 degrees Celsius, maybe 25. But now we've been getting over 30 degrees. And, a lot of people in Calgary, they wouldn't have air conditioning in their homes because they said, oh, it's not worth it because we only really get 2 weeks of really hot weather where we might get, through the summer, 30-degree days. So you open up those windows, the breeze goes through and it helps cool it off. Well, more and more people have been getting air conditioning in their homes, and I know it becomes a more of a sought-after feature here now because our summers are so much warmer overall. So we can have sustained temperatures of 30 degrees for several days. Now, it's not Toronto, sticky, wet, hot because of the humidity, but hey, man, hot is hot. So it makes it tough to sleep. That's hot. And then cold. We can get some really extreme cold temperatures too. So, we can have minus 30, minus 40 or more. The good news is if we do get a cold snap, it's usually maybe a week at the most. We've had two. That's a bit tough to take. We're having some really mild weather right now. It's probably going to be +5 later today. But come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to start cooling down, and we're expecting temperatures, closer to minus 15, minus 20 degrees Celsius. So, so that's Calgary for you. It's the weather. The weather's all over the place. So if you can handle that, you're fine. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my top 7 reasons not to move to Calgary, Alberta. Now, I got to tell you, I've lived here for a long time, but I was once new like you, moving to the city, and I wish I had somebody to tell me what was going on in the city. So I moved here in 2001, and living here for over 20 years, 21 years, 22 years. I've learned a lot about the city. I know it like the back of my hand, and being in the industry I'm in, I really know this town. So all I need to know about you is a couple things that is important to you. So, will you be working in the downtown core? Will you need to commute? Will you be working from home? What kind of property do you like? Do you like an apartment or a townhome because you don't like to do exterior maintenance? Do you want a detached property or a semi-detached home because you want a yard or do you, are you an inner city dweller? Or do you prefer the suburbs? Do you like to get to the mountains often? So these are all questions I need to know from you so that I can help you. Feel free to reach out, text, email, phone, whatever. I'm here to help. So that's my top 7 reasons for not moving to Calgary. Any questions, reach out. Let me help you live your life in Calgary, Alberta.